Machair, one of the rarest habitats in Europe, a fertile low-lying grassy plain made of high shell content sand. Its origins date back to the Ice Age, where meltwater from glaciers swept vast amounts of sand in the sea that were then driven ashore by wind and wave action, creating the characteristic dunes and white beaches of Machair.
My name is Jamie Boyle and I'm a site manager for the Royal Site Protection of Birds. The reserve was set up as a research and survey area, and that's what it's been achieving for the last 50 years. Ultimately, we want to carry on doing the research and survey work and to help bring wildlife into the crofting system and help it sort of coexist with the crofting system.
But it's not only wildlife that relies on the Machair. In fact, people living in the habitat have been using the fertile land to grow crops, and there's a grazing area for cattle and sheep.
My name is Jeff Martin. I am the postmaster of Dalibra, and I am part-time crofter in Dalibra and photographer too. You got a house on a croft. You have to keep the croft alive. The system of crofting is quite complicated for someone like me who is not from here. There is a committee grazing on each township. So this is, we are linked to Dalibra, Common Grazing Committee, where it's us as crofter that we have to manage together the use of the common grazing.
The Machair Life project was set up looking at crofting and looking at the problems that crofting have, particularly viability and changes from sort of traditional farming, and looking at the effects that was having, and it was sort of set up to try and mitigate against the effects of that and bring in system or a way the crofters could work the area roughly following traditional farming and enabling sort of them, to have a profitable business. There was various elements to Machair Life. We did a 4-year research and looking at the different techniques that are used in the Machair, because although it generally follows a sort of traditional form of farming, there's quite a few variations to that. It looked at these variations and to see which were the richest for wildlife, which were the easiest for crofters to do, and looked at machinery and the new machinery we could use. And it was great, and it also sort of highlighted the Machair as well. That brought more focus on the Machair, because it's a habitat that's not actually very widely known.
The old-fashioned way of crofting is totally benefit for the wildlife. But nowadays things are changing very fast with the use of heavy machinery, new breed of sheep and cattle. The people tend not to keep native breed. The last 5 years we have decided to not to be like the other crofter. 10 years ago for cattle we had Aberdeen Angus cattle, and we had a very harsh cold winter. We were probably at 8,000–9,000 pounds of feeding for 5 cattle, and it was not worth it at all. So we decided maybe to review, to change our livestock. And 2–3 years later, we got rid of the Aberdeen Angus and we went to the Highland cattle that are native from the island, that are less demanding, that are eating less, and are doing less damage on the ground too. So that's very important. And for sheep, I think this is the last year that we are going to have the white sheep here. In September, we decided to buy a small flock of Hebridean black sheep. They are from there, so they can cope any type of weather. They eat less, they just lamb outside. The Machair, it's a very interesting place to see on a daily basis, because it changes all the time. Hour by hour the color change. During the winter, when it's stormy, the sound from the shore is blasting everywhere. The way that the environment is changing, you can go any time of the year, you will see something different.
All habitats are important, but the machair is a very rare habitat. It's only found in sort of Scotland. It's an unusual habitat because it's rich, it's shell sand sort of blown across underlying grass. But it's also, it's not just the machair, it's a system that comes with it, the crofting system that survives with it. And it's an incredibly rich area for wildlife. It's a really beautiful area. It's got great potential for tourism and to show that, you know, wildlife's a natural asset to these islands. The machairs are incredibly important to these islands. If sea levels rose, it's a huge problem. Obviously, most of the machairs are just about 2 metres above sea level. So a slight change in sea level rises and more stormy weather's coming from the west and places like that, you know, could have a huge influence on what happens out here.
It is so fertile that the flora of the area can include up to 45 species in any metre square. This peculiar habitat is home to different wildlife species, which rely entirely on it for their survival. The crowded beaches host redshanks, oystercatchers, and sandlings. The inhabitants of the rich grasslands can vary from small invertebrates to ground nesting birds such as geese, and the endangered lapwing.
Because of our location on Croft, we are in touch with SNH, RSPB, and many public agencies from UK, Europe.
The survey and research work is ongoing, and we're constantly changing and developing around the sort of crofting system to see if there's ways that we can work with the crofters. At the moment, we're concentrating on using the government agri-environmental schemes. Organisations like the RSPB don't have enough money to sort of make huge changes out here, so we try to utilise sort of money that's made available by the government, and we try to pressurise the government into recognising the area and that it's worth putting money in and helping sort of the farming and crofting and wildlife on these islands.
Machair, a unique habitat that we must protect, a field of hope.